Today, I'm going to let you in on what happened, where we made some mistakes, and why we're taking this big turn. Every year, the government determines the right number of permanent residents that we want to admit. That's how it's been done for decades. That the Indian government response, particularly through the media, was to instead attack Canada.
Blockades are harming our economy and endangering public safety. Critical supply chains have been disrupted.
Picture this: secret meetings, hushed whispers, and a plan to overthrow Canada's Prime Minister. It's not a movie plot. It's happening right now in Ottawa. MPs from Trudeau's own party have had enough. They've set a deadline for his resignation, and the consequences will change Canadian politics forever. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great. Thank you so much. Now, back to the video. An uprising was simmering in the background, just beyond Parliament Hill. Members of the Liberal Party, who were unhappy with Trudeau's leadership, started meeting behind closed doors. These coffee meetings were more than simply chit-chat. They were orchestrating a coup d'etat. An influential group of long-serving members of Parliament spearheaded the effort. Not everyone in Trudeau's inner circle was on board with his policies, and others felt overlooked. One thing they did have in common, though, was the conviction that Trudeau's departure was necessary for the welfare of the party and the nation. It was a dangerous business to have these meetings. Reputations may take a nosedive if the news got out. Members of Trudeau's crew were known for their quick reactions when confronted with opponents. A combination of ambition and desperation drove the rebels to continue playing with fire, even though they knew it. Envision long, low tables at one of Ottawa's many hidden cafes or pubs. Put phones outside so they can't be recorded.
Blockades are harming our economy and endangering public safety. Critical supply chains have been disrupted.
So we're doing something major. We're reducing the numbers of immigrants that will come to Canada for the next 3 years.
Activities that pose a significant threat to public safety.
Every year, the government determines the right number of permanent residents that we want to admit. That's how it's been done for decades.
Quiet discussions and stealthy looks. It was a high-stakes political thriller, and these lawmakers were living it up. Tragically, history did not favor them. Exercising the Prime Minister's office has been an embarrassing and fruitless endeavor in the past. They were plagued by the specters of previous coup attempts that had gone miserably. However, this faction thought they had something unique, a critical mass of backers and a window of opportunity when Trudeau was exposed. Tensions rose as their ideas came together. Would they have the guts to go up against the man who had guided them to victory in so many elections? It was clear to the rebels that they were putting their careers, reputations, and perhaps even the Liberal Party's future in jeopardy. After that, the turning point arrived. It took the renegade MPs weeks of plotting before they really did anything. A very public and nasty effort to remove Trudeau from office was threatened if he did not quit by October 28th. An ultimatum that sent shockwaves across Canadian politics. This wasn't your average, nicely composed letter or courteous advice. It was a political detonation that could have irreparably damaged the unity of the Liberal Party. Now that the rebels had shown their hand, the rest of Canada was waiting for Trudeau's response. Trudeau is in the midst of unprecedented political pressure in Canada as the October 28th deadline approaches.
That agents of the Government of India have engaged in and continue to engage in.
Today, I'm going to let you in on what happened, where we made some mistakes, and why we're taking this big turn.
As Prime Minister, it is my responsibility to provide reassurance to those who are feeling their safety has been compromised.
Historically, Canada's annual immigration plan just looked at permanent residents. The number of temporary students and workers that we admitted each year was left to the demands of the economy.
Parliament is not your average day. It is a time bomb that might detonate the entire Liberal Party. Trump's choices? It's horrible all around. He risks bringing his party to its knees if he stands down, which would be an admission of defeat. He might drive a wedge amongst the Liberals if he gets violent. Strategists on the Liberal side are dreaming of a lose-lose scenario. All directions are exerting pressure. More and more members of parliament are rebelling within the party on a daily basis. Many of them see Trudeau as a liability, and they are concerned about their own political careers. The Prime Minister has lost support outside of Parliament. His approval rating has plummeted to a dismal 24%, with only 16% of Liberal voters desiring his continued presence. Politicians would be wise to take flight after seeing that kind of figure. The Liberal Party is in shambles as a result of this crisis. People are now watching even their longtime friends and allies with suspicion. Once a unified front, the party is today a hotbed of backstabbing and clandestine relationships. It is happening at the worst possible time, right before an election. If the Liberals don't pull themselves together soon, they could face a complete and utter collapse. This drama has political analysts in a tizzy. The extent of internal opposition that Trudeau has experienced has led some to believe that he has reached his breaking point. Many believe he still has a surprise in store for them. The consensus, however, is that Trudeau may have the decision made for him if he does not act soon. Is Trudeau planning to do anything soon? It is almost painful to hear no word coming out of the Prime Minister's office.
The killing of a Canadian on Canadian soil is not something that we can ignore. There are two kinds of immigration in Canada. The one you probably think of most is permanent immigration, like when families come to Canada to settle, call it home. That the Indian government response, particularly through the media, was to instead attack Canada. When the job is done or when they finish their degree, most return home. Some apply to stay as permanent residents, but most return home.
Do you think he's preparing a dramatic return address? Having secret talks with the rebels? Or is he just paralyzed with shock that his political power is dwindling? Trudeau is still the Prime Minister at the moment, but for how much longer? He may be attempting to gather his faithful followers for one final stand, according to recent rumors. However, his stronghold is losing its integrity day by day. This is a historic moment in Canadian history, and it is shaking Ottawa like no previous political earthquake before it. The Liberal Party isn't the only thing being rocked by the Trudeau rebellion. The rules of Canadian politics are being rewritten as well. The repercussions of this drama will be felt for a long time, regardless of its resolution. Let that sink in. Quill takes charge if Trudeau fails. The Liberals may find themselves exposed as a result of a potentially chaotic leadership struggle. Is it possible for him to head a group that plotted to depose him if he manages to survive? How about the other side? The opportunity to attack a government that is weak is likely to make them salivate. This isn't some empty political show. It affects Canada's very destiny. Depending on how this unfolds, policies, priorities, and even the way politics is done might all be altered. A historian has said that significant political shifts that we haven't yet begun to comprehend could be brought about by this crisis. The million-dollar question is this: is Canada prepared to take the lead in the future? On the other hand, will the same old political games continue, although with different participants? Who knows what the future holds for Canadian politics, but one thing is certain: this will change everything.